Hey everyone, John here. I've got something exciting to welcome everybody. Welcome everybody. Welcome everybody. Welcome everybody. Welcome everybody. Welcome everybody. I am your host, John Espinosa. To the Leading Leaders podcast. Intelligence. I've talked about emotional intelligence quite some time. It's your awareness of others around you and then your awareness of how you react to those situations. Everything that goes towards making sure that we recognize the way that we perceive information and then how we respond to that information has to do with emotional intelligence. And make sure that you're leveraging technology. I have weekly check-ins with my team to share expectations and boundaries, to make sure that there's no roadblocks in the way. Those are opportunities for us, and it can be a simple phone call, it can be a Zoom or a Teams meeting, it can be a face-to-face meeting, just, hey, touch base with everybody, right? That's going to allow you as a leader to become more comfortable with your role. Your baby boomer generation that are in the workforce, they like email. That's how they keep track of everything. A lot of times people live in their inbox. That's how they schedule things. That's how they task things. That's how they prioritize, right? So understand that if you have a manager, a leader, a supervisor, or if you have someone on your team that's of that generation, they may be more comfortable in that email environment. Vice versa, if you have some millennials on your team, some Gen Xers on your team, they may be more comfortable in the instant messenger. You're going to have to get in that instant message and communicate. As a leader, make sure that you show up for those that are most important. Be present and be that person that your family needs at that time. And I promise that your tank's going to be full enough. If you can meet those three things, they're going to appreciate it, and you're going to do what you need to do to ensure and prioritize that gets done. And we talked about loneliness. Loneliness when you step into a leadership role for the first time. As you come out of that individual contributor role and now you're leading people, now you're leading others, it can be very lonely at times. So I talked through that. I shared some of my experiences, and last but not least, I always try to leave you all with some practical takeaways that you can go implement as soon as you finish listening. Whatever you want to change, whatever habit that you want to implement, make it easy. Don't create these huge goals, especially don't create 12 goals or 12 things that you want to change. Start with one thing and make it easy enough to where you are going to be consistent in accomplishing that easy thing, and then it becomes a habit. Waking up early. Don't wake up an hour and a half early. Don't go from a 7 o'clock alarm time to a 5:30 alarm time. Create it 10-minute to 15-minute increments. Wake up at 6:45 for 30 days. Then wake up at 6:30 for 30 days. Get to your target time, but make it easy enough for 15 minutes. I can do anything in 15 minutes. And now, pretty soon, you're at 5:30. You're at where you want to be, and it's a habit. Your body's used to doing that, and you're going to continue on down the road. Just by asking questions, people will lead into one thing, and then you can pivot. That's the other thing. My second point is listen with the intent to question. Listen and make sure that you're not thinking of the next question, but you're listening to add value to the conversation and be naturally curious. This is the point as an introvert that I've learned to do really, really well. I have learned to be curious. I started out just wanting to help one person, and then all I ask is that one person goes and helps one more person. And this is going to start to build this whole leadership journey, helping people who maybe don't have the self-confidence in themselves to be a good leader, who don't think that they're worthy, who have that imposter syndrome, who don't feel that they're unique enough in their leadership style to be successful in leadership. Be a good storyteller. That is important. Anything that we do goes back to making sure telling our vision. Tell a story about the vision, creating a connection. Tell a story and weave in those things that you've learned about people or that you can relate to them in a story. Share a story, a personal story about you. I can promise you that if you tie an experience to a particular person or to a team, and you do it through a story, you will have people following you through earth, wind, and fire. I've seen it. I've experienced it. I've followed leaders through the good times and the bad times because I knew that they had my back. They clearly articulated their vision, and they did it through storytelling. I have a list of things that I tend to gravitate towards, and being a problem solver is one of them. High energy is another one. Motivating, somebody who is able to take a conversation and get you to buy in, right? I mean, it's almost like a chess game when you're talking to somebody and they're talking about the organization and why they joined the organization and their, story. They're telling their story, and I'm like, this person, they got it together. I mean, I can see myself in them. In the end, you have to create some unification in the direction. You can't have people pulling in opposite directions on your team. That's not going to get anywhere. It's going to create a lot of frustration. So one of the most important things that you can do to create that unification is through your inspiration and your clarity and vision. I think those two pieces go a long way with unifying people, especially when not everybody agrees on the direction that you're taking, but they can get on board with the vision that you have for the organization. I always talk about be concise and be clear with your feedback. Don't talk around the topic. I make this mistake all the time, and I'm working with coaches to get better at being more clear and direct and to the point. But this could also mean when I say you are not doing well, you are not performing well, that you need to clarify that. You need to be very clear about what well means. That could mean a lot of things. Maybe it's not you showing up on time, not putting in enough work hours, reports or the products, your effort isn't there. Whatever that communication looks like, 3 basic things, and we rotate between those 3 instantaneously. We become receivers and we become senders. And guess what loops all those 3 together? Feedback. We're going to talk a lot about feedback this season because in feedback, there's clues in there that as leaders, we need to pick up on. So what's the goal of communication? Why communicate? As leaders, our goal is to create connections. It's to create connections with others, our peers, our senior leadership, and most importantly, our teams. Our teams need to be able to relate to us as leaders. Hey everyone, John here. I wanted to jump on and quickly talk about my Kickstart the New Year Challenge. If you're feeling stuck, if you're feeling like you got a lot of irons in the fire and you're not really progressing, you're not getting anywhere, maybe you feel lost. I know I did. And over the past decade, I have been working on a coaching program to help myself, and now I want to give it to you. Head on over to thejohnespinosa.com, sign up. You're not going to want to miss it. You owe it to yourself to kickstart the new year. Get going now. Don't wait till January 1 when everybody else is going. Get ahead of the game. You owe it to yourself. People don't believe in themselves. I've talked to too many people last week that wanted to start something, had a great idea, and they were in the process of getting there. They just haven't moved to action. And a lot of times it's because they didn't think that they could do it. They thought, oh, there's too many people out there doing what I want to do. And I don't know if any of you are in that same spot. Maybe you want to start a company. Maybe you want to invent something. Maybe you want to take a leap into a whole nother career field. Maybe you're out there, you're a young leader, and the major you're in or whatever you're studying, whatever you decided to go to school for, isn't really what you thought it would be. And you're thinking about making a change. You're thinking about making a difference in your life. You don't have to have everything figured out to move to action. I was listening to a great podcast today, the great Tony Robbins, and he talked about too many people focus on the how and they don't spend enough time on the what and the why. So where we need to end the practical approach, as I mentioned earlier, those 3 things. Make sure that you're turning those thoughts of getting it done into action. What's going to be the trigger there? Identify, visualize what the end result will be, what it feels like, what it will look like, the stress that it will relieve, and then last but not least, schedule it. Put it in your calendar. There's nothing like now. There's nothing like today to get those things done, you're going to feel much better, I promise you. And in the end, you're going to have more time to do the things that you want to do and stress less about the things that you don't want to do and haven't got the time or haven't executed on. We as leaders try to convince people to do something, never a good spot to be in. People are going to do things that they feel or they believe or based on their values and their culture. They're going to do those things. You are training the next person to take your place. I coach that and I mentor that, all of the leaders, because if you're not training your replacement, then you're doing a disservice to the organization. And that's no different. You need to be training your replacement because I want you to go on and do better things. If you want to stay here, you'll always have a home. But for the most part, that's how succession works. Be accountable to yourself and others. Number 2, do what you say and say what you're going to do. That goes back to accountability. It makes sure that we are showing up for ourselves and for others in a consistent manner. The third one, don't miss 2 days in a row. This is critical to making sure that you're consistent. And then last but not least, break your 24-hour day into segments where you can now be efficient in that time and then give yourself a break or put them back to back and create 2 days, 2 full work days in one. Don't give up learning, leaders. Just because you think that you've gotten to the top of the hill, you've addressed the challenge, take that 24 hours and celebrate, and then pick up that book, pick up that pen, click on that video, and continue to get better and continue to work to be the best version of yourself. Why we got into leadership, day one, if you are a seasoned leader and you're looking at, 5, 10, 15, 20 years of experience, probably isn't the same reason why you continue to be in leadership that much longer. Our values change, our culture changes, we learn more about ourselves, and hopefully we project onto our teams, we project onto our leaders. And that's what this journey is all about, is making sure that we are creating a sustainable organization. Remember, people will do as you do, not necessarily as you say. And if they can't relate to you because you're constantly chasing perfectionism, you're going to find yourself on an island, and it's going to be very lonely. It's going to be like Survivor, where you may have Wilson, the volleyball, but that's going to be about it. It's going to be you and Wilson, and you better hope that volleyball is perfect. So sometimes we're not building a piano. There are times when people will do things, and you as a leader, we can't go back to the individual contributor role that we came from, especially if you are leading a team that you may have been a part of at one time. Those relationships have to change. The way that you interact with people, maybe you went out after hours to have some cocktails or drinks or food, you can't do that anymore. So that self-awareness is going to be a big piece on how to prevent favoritism within the group, from you, and all around. Give yourself some time. Pause. I take 24 hours to respond. Ask yourself, what can I control now? And then last but not least, work to increase your emotional intelligence. And that is going to go a long way with responding versus reacting to the situations that are going to come, because it's not a matter of if, it's when. So leaders out there, I know you can do it. I have faith in you and I believe in you. As a leader, and we got to instill that in the employees. We have to model that ourselves and coach that and work through that. So if it's your team, if it's you as the leader that are going through whatever you're going through out there, remember to stay present and remember that there is something to be learned from that particular challenge. Take that. It's going to make you a better person. It's going to make you a better leader. And when we as the leaders get better, that helps us meet our mission of getting others to where they're going. And we can share that experience. That's that intuition that we can share with them to help maybe smooth that, whatever they're going through, that process out. But we gotta put our trust in that process. And if you do that, I promise you, that's not only going to help you, but it's going to help your team. Go be great.